value. Call your travel agent today or visit msccruises.com.
This is CNN, the most trusted name in news.
Closed captioning brought to you by InventHelp. Call 1-800-900-0202.
Do you have an idea for an invention or new product? Do you think companies would be interested in your idea? Do you want to try to get a patent? Then call InventHelp now for free information.
We are following breaking news. At least 8 people are dead, 40 more injured after Taliban militants stormed a training school in northern Pakistan. Police say the attackers came on a rickshaw wearing burqas to disguise themselves as women. They say all 3 attackers were killed. The TTP, also known as the Pakistani Taliban, has claimed responsibility.
December is off to a mild start for much of the country. Enjoy it while you can, though. A bitter cold snap is on the way. CNN meteorologist Chad Myers here with your forecast. Chad, good morning.
Good morning, Erica. Still good shopping days left, I hope, for you. Mild air across all of the southeast for today. This weather is brought to you by Humana. Start with healthy. Yes, the cold air is on the way. You've been hearing about it now for days. Not today. We are still in the 40s and 50s all across the Northeast and the Midwest. We'll call it cool, but really it's about seasonable. Very, very normal for now. But here comes the purple. Tuesday for Chicago, Friday for New York. We drop off a cliff. From where we are today, in the 50s and 60s, we will be much colder. Look at Chicago. Chicago is 60 on Monday afternoon and 19 by Wednesday morning. Now, the cold is slow to get to New York, at least slower. So still nice until Thursday. And then, Chris, it falls off the cliff. Temperatures are down into the teens in the city and all of the Northeast on Friday morning.
You had me until one thing. The tone was there, the numbers, the graphics, all on point. But when you said, here comes the purple, it doesn't work for me. I'm not scared of purple. That was it. Now I have false sense of confidence that it's not going to be as bad as you said. Chad Myers, have a great weekend.
Yeah, all right.
He knows I'm right. All right, the State Department warning the White House about President Trump's anti-Muslim tweets. Are the president's tweets putting Americans at risk overseas? We're going to ask General Michael Hayden. He is the former director of the CIA and the NSA. Next.
Your new day weather, brought to you by Humana. At Humana, we believe everyone has a reason to start with healthy.
At Humana, we believe great things are ahead of you when you start with healthy. And part of staying healthy means choosing the right Medicare plan. Humana can help. With Original Medicare, you're covered for hospital stays and doctor office visits when you're sick, but keep in mind you'll have to pay a deductible for each. A Medicare supplement plan can cover your deductibles and coinsurance, but you may pay higher premiums than you do with other plans, and prescription drug coverage isn't included. But with an all-in-one Humana Medicare Advantage plan, you could get all that coverage plus Part D prescription drug benefits, all for an affordable monthly plan premium, and in some areas, no plan premium. It's all described in this free book and DVD. Call for yours and discover how an all-in-one Medicare Advantage plan from Humana could save you money. Call 1-800-833-0635. That's 1-800-833-0635. Now.
Hiring was always a huge challenge. Endless hours on job sites with not a lot to show for it. Then I found ZipRecruiter. They figured out hiring. I post my job, and they send me the right people because their technology is smart.
Go to ZipRecruiter to post over 100 job boards with one click, then easily select the best candidates from your dashboard.
ZipRecruiter often sends me the right person in 24 hours.
ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. Try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/smartest.
What's going on with these billboards, Mildred?
My daughter Angela was murdered, and the police department is too busy eating Krispy Kreme to solve actual crime.
I'm in the middle of my damn Easter dinner. Sorry, kid.
Ain't about time you got home to your mama?
I told her I was going to be out till 12.
All this anger, it just begets greater anger.
I saw you on TV the other day. You look good.
I think the guy wants to get in my pants.
3 billboards. Rated R. Now playing.
I love you, Julius Caesar, but sometimes you stink. Febreze Car Vent Clip cleans away odors for up to 30 days. Because the things you love can stink.
Personality. Whoa. Personality. So. Personality. Smile. Personality. Show. Personality.
Facebook Messenger.
The White House was warned by the State Department that President Trump's retweets of vile anti-Muslim videos could spark protests at U.S. embassies overseas. But White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders has a very different take on the effect of the president's actions. Here it is.
I think what he's done is elevate the conversation to talk about a real issue and a real threat. That's extreme violence and extreme terrorism, something that we know to be very real and something the president feels strongly about talking about and bringing up and making sure is an issue every single day, that we're looking at the best ways to protect Americans.
You know, elevating the conversation. Let's ask General Michael Hayden, CNN national security analyst and former CIA and NSA director. Help me with this, General, because she said it with a straight face, but how can it not be a joke? What did it elevate except arguably the threat level to embassies?
The word elevate jumps out of that sentence like an alarm bell. It didn't elevate anything in the normal English meaning of the word elevate. I see, Jake, three or four things happen because of that. Number one, once again, we've seen the president governing, and I mean this with respect. We've seen the president governing with what looks to the world like an exposed id without any ego or superego trying to correct or discipline.
It's an in-depth understanding of Freudian personality work.
Well, but I mean, it does seem to be that way with no respect. And now we have to conclude, Jake, a consistent pattern of no respect for the traditional bounds of the office. Now, for an American, to me, that's the big news. Now, there's other stuff, all right? Number two, it will add to the pile of grievances that some Muslims will latch onto to motivate themselves to do harm against the United States.
That doesn't resonate with the American audience. When experts like yourself make the point that when you say this type of incendiary stuff, you fuel their propaganda. People don't seem to care about that. They're like, I don't care if we make them angry. They're trying to kill us.
Well, actually, it's more complicated than that, and thanks for the opportunity for another 30 or 45 seconds to explain it, all right?
Please.
There is a civil war within Islam. The center of gravity of this war, Jake, is not yet them versus us. The center of gravity in this war right now is them versus them. That's why over 95% of the deaths in this war are Muslim on Muslim. But when we live this story over here, that it's about them versus us, we animate the group over here who wants that to be the story here. They hate us. They all hate us. Don't let them into the country. When we say that, we grab the narrative of the small group within Islam who does want this to be a war between civilizations, because they'll lose the war within Muslim civilization.
And it allows the president to grab onto a relatively small group here in the United States that does have Islamophobia. I want to pivot to another topic about what was discovered by the New York Times in terms of the president's influence on lawmakers and their Russia investigation. But I can't help but think that you're playing some type of intel community psyops game on me by calling me Jake. Do you know how angry Jake Tapper gets when you confuse me?
Did I say Jake?
Like 2 or 3 times. And I figure you're waiting for me to break, but I won't break, General. I want you to know.
Sorry.
But somewhere Jake Tapper is on a Stairmaster right now, and he's very angry. He is, because he's got much better hair.
Okay, Chris.
All right.
Okay, Chris, I'm very sorry.
No. So you're always welcome here, General.
Thank
I love
you.
having you. So
okay, Tom.
This New York, I've been called much worse. Forget what LeVar Ball called me. So when you look at what the New York Times is reporting, is it wrong for the President of the United States to call lawmakers and say, I don't like what you're investigating. I think there's nothing to it. I hope you wrap it up really soon.
You know, I watch very carefully your spot. You know, if it had been kind of encapsulated, cabined in the walk by, the drive by, you know, we need to get this thing behind us. We need to get on to governing. If that had been the case, fine, no harm. But this appears to have been something about which the president was obsessing, about which he could not prevent himself from talking to other officials. I do think that the other members of the other political branch felt pressure because of what the president was saying. And you realize, Chris, in this storyline about this time, the president wasn't just calling the Congress. He was calling the director of national intelligence and calling the director of the National Security Agency, and in both instances trying to get them to come out publicly and say there's nothing here in the Russian investigation. Now, part of this could be an experience. All right, fine. We get beyond that after a couple of weeks, one would hope. Second could be the character of the president. He's used to bullying people here in Manhattan and having his way, right? And part of this could be he really fears there's there, and he doesn't want the investigation to get there.
Or he really hates it because he thinks there's nothing there, but it takes him to the same point in terms of questionable influence.
Well, you know, I used to be in that place too, and you and I have talked about this, and I said we'll probably end up in an unsatisfactory place, irresolute at the end. But the longer this goes on, the more things to look at, the more you see has happened, the less comfortable I am with that conclusion.
What does your gut tell you? Is Rex Tillerson in for the long haul?
No. I think we're now we're close to the
1 year mark.
We're close to Festivus.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. This is the airing of grievances. All right, and this is public shaming of the Secretary of State before he leaves. And if the scenario plays out with Mike Pompeo coming over and perhaps Senator Cotton going up to CIA, without judging on the quality of the people whom I know and think are actually quite talented, if that's the way it ends up, Chris, we will have a body of men around the president in the power ministries who think more like and who speak more like the president than we do today.
General Michael Hayden, thank you very much.
Chris.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. Erica.
All right, thank you. Senate nominee Roy Moore facing a new challenger. Late-night comedian Jimmy Kimmel, their very public feud on Twitter. Next.
Give a little bit. Give a little bit of your love to me. There's so much that we need to share. So send us and show that you care. Give a little bit of my love to you.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Thanks to your support, you've helped make MyPillow become one of the fastest growing companies in America. Over the last 12 years, you've helped MyPillow create thousands of jobs right here in the USA. Every MyPillow is made with passion here in my home state of Minnesota to ensure you get the best sleep of your life.
One of the things that I really like about MyPillow is the support. It gives my neck a little hug.
I've never slept better in my life. What's better than a great night's sleep?
Sleep is one of the most important things to your health, and MyPillow is one of the most important things to your sleep.
Call or go online to order MyPillow Premium, and Mike will give you a second pillow absolutely free. Use the promo code on your screen to get 2 MyPillows for the price of 1. Don't delay. Order now.
I tried every pillow from expensive down pillows that just went flat to fiber-filled pillows that rebound every time you move your head. I even tried those memory foam pillows, and the curve did not match my neck, and it probably won't match yours. That's why I invented MyPillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck supported and aligned.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
MyPillow lasts 10 years, is machine washable and dryable, and comes with a 60-day money-back guarantee.
I personally guarantee MyPillow will be the most comfortable pillow you'll ever own or your money back.
Call or go online to order MyPillow Premium, and Mike will give you a second pillow absolutely free. Use the promo code on your screen to get 2 MyPillows for the price of 1. Don't delay. Order now.
With our 60-day money-back guarantee, you have nothing to lose.
Sleep well, America! For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
A D.C. scandal that ended in impeachment.
He was asked, why did you have this affair? He said, because I could.
And a political drama that echoes to this day. Bill Harper, How It Really Happened. Sunday night at 9.
Do you know someone who uses reading glasses? Then you've seen how they're always losing them, forgetting them, squinting. You know the drill. Well, here's the gift that's going to knock their socks off this season. They are called Thin Optics, and mine are right here on the back of my phone. But they can go anywhere. Pockets, purses, wallets, even cabinets. And now you can get them in this totally cool keychain. I mean, look at this. Magic, huh? Check this out. You can't break them. They bend, they flex, they twist. They're awesome. You've heard about the gift that just keeps on giving. Well, because Thin Optics comes with a lifetime guarantee, it's literally the gift that never ends. Thin Optics come in 4 strengths, but if you don't know which strength to buy, that's okay. Thin Optics has an option to send a pair of glasses in each strength. Now is your chance to nail that perfect gift this year. Start gifting and get free shipping. Go to givethinoptics.com right now.
This is CNN, the most trusted name in news.
Closed captioning brought to you by OnlyMeso.com.
Mesothelioma, it's all we do. With 7 offices across the country, let us come meet with you. Call us at 1-800-213-8000.
Jimmy Kimmel taking on Alabama's GOP Senate nominee Roy Moore in a Twitter feud after the comedian sent a writer to interrupt a Moore campaign event. Well, Moore, perhaps not surprisingly, didn't appreciate the gag and tweeted to Kimmel, "If you want to mock our Christian values, come down here to Alabama and do it man to man." Kimmel then firing back, "Sounds great, Roy. Let me know when you get some Christian values, and I'll be there."
Hashtag burn.
Yeah. Moore then saying, "Jimmy, we'll save you a seat on the front pew." Kimmel, though,
hashtag on the comeback.
Yes, and hashtag there's more. Kimmel with the last word, "Okay, Roy, but I'm leaving my daughters at home. P.S. Wear that cute little leather vest." So there's that. Here to discuss, CNN senior media correspondent Brian Seltzer, CNN media analyst Bill Carter. Hashtag discuss on that one. It's fascinating to see where we are at now, and that this is the conversation we're having, not just on the old Twitter, but just in general. This is what we've got. We've got a comedian and a Senate candidate going at it. State of affairs. I mean, Bill, how do you even...
Well, look, nothing should surprise us now.
This is an excellent point.
That's and Kimmel obviously has been out there in the political realm now since the episode with the Healthcare Act.
With his son, yeah.
So he, he took the opportunity. He has sent Tony Barbieri, his writer, to these various events, and almost always gotten a pretty good rise out of it. And usually it's been like Paris Hilton or somebody like that he's dealt with. But he did a lot with Trump. He had a lot at the Trump rallies, and he'd wear the T-shirt, and people would surround him. And the guy's very good at trolling people. He's very, very good at it.
He suggested a charity fist fight.
Yeah.
Does this mean that Kimmel will really go to Alabama? I presume he actually will.
He would
head down there next week.
He would, but I'm not sure that would hurt Roy Moore. I mean, if you think about it, Alabama is the place that invented the outside agitator as the enemy. The other thing is, and Jimmy's sort of fooling around saying, yeah, it sounds like he wants to fight, like man to man. And, he's 20 years younger. But, one thing I'll say about Roy Moore was he was like a kickboxer.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's the best idea.
But also, Brian, the nature of the dialogue. I'm as much a caveman as anybody. But the idea that you have Jimmy, I'll come down there and let's fight and let's give the money to charity. My charity will be the women who accused you of sexual, attacks.
And Moore's actually responding. I mean, Moore won't debate his actual Democratic opponent, Doug Jones, but he is interested, it seems, in responding to Jimmy Kimmel.
Because of what
it's almost as if that's a proxy.
It probably helps him. And Jimmy's weakest salvo last night was in the cover-up of, no, it's not about being anti-Alabama. He said, we sent Reese Witherspoon down there to do a movie about you. Right. We being Hollywood. Net, he loses on that because people do believe this is about culture. and this is about attacking the South and attacking what Roy Moore represents as a Christian. Did Kimmel help himself there?
Well, I certainly think when you see this kind of Twitter spat, this is so far from the policy conversation that we might all want to see in a Senate race. Then again, this race has not been about policy for many weeks, or maybe for many months.
In general, you
I'm
don't.
trying to be optimistic.
In general, you don't take on a comic line for line. That's a mistake. That's going in at Tigers without the chair and the whip. See, they will tear you apart. You do not go back and forth whipping with a comedian. Interesting. That's not going to work.
Late night is, as we know, we've been talking about. You've been talking about.
Bob Costas' pink eye. We'll move over, pink eye. There's a new grosser sheriff in town. He loved to engage in a crass quiz game with men and women in the office, marry or kill, in which he would identify the female co-host that he'd most like to sleep with. Well, I don't know who you said you'd marry in those conversations, but I do know you killed your career and yourself.
Wow. Well,
I mean,
remember that when the Harvey Weinstein scandal broke, some of these late night comics caught a lot of heat for not talking and quickly and not being forceful enough. I was going to say serious enough in their comedy. This is obviously, among other things, Seth Meyers showing that he's independent. He's not just because he's at NBC is he going to go easy on this scandal. No. And I think he actually made some fair points in his joke.
Look, I mean, there's a big slow ball coming over the middle of the plate, and Seth Meyers knocked it out. I think the larger question, I'd love your take on this, Bill, is what is the point of the reporting? If it is to call out ugly behavior by bold-faced names and expose them, certainly a job of the media, okay. But if the job is change, doesn't it have to get a lot deeper than just firing a Matt Lauer, just as one example?
I think it does. I think it's very hard at this point to say where this is going and what the comprehensive result is going to be. But the awareness is raised, certainly tremendously to the height that it's never been raised at. You would think at some point that's going to have impact across the board. I do think the media is a place where they've at least faced it sort of frankly and come out and said, we're not going to, bury
Unlike Washington.
And the guy from Variety, well, they have the cover of elections, right?
Yes.
We have people that, the guy from Variety on the show yesterday saying his co-anchors knew about this stuff, and then management knew about this stuff. Well, what stuff? What did they know and when? Those are important questions.
And that's the awareness with management, I think, that we're going to need to see more of. Guys, thank you both.
Thanks.
Senate Republicans hitting a roadblock with the tax bill. It must be a big block because it's going to cost $1 trillion. What can they do to get this plan passed? We have the latest next.
Sometimes a gift should be opened early, especially when it fits this good. Now at Men's Warehouse, suits on sale for $199. Take 60% off sweaters and outerwear, plus it's buy one, get one free on select items. You're gonna like the way he looks.
The day after chemo might mean a trip back to the doctor's office, just for a shot. But why go back there when you can stay home with Neulasta Onpro?
Strong chemo can put you at risk of serious infection, which could lead to hospitalizations. In a key study, Neulasta reduced the risk of infection from 17% to 1%, a 94% decrease. Applied the day of chemo, Neulasta Onpro is designed to deliver Neulasta the next day, so you can stay home. Neulasta is for certain cancer patients receiving strong chemotherapy. Do not take Neulasta if you're allergic to Neulasta or Neupogen, filgrastim. Ruptured spleen, sometimes fatal as well as serious lung problems, allergic reactions, kidney injuries, and capillary leak syndrome have occurred. Report abdominal or shoulder tip pain, trouble breathing, or allergic reactions to your doctor right away. In patients with sickle cell disorders, serious, sometimes fatal crises can occur. The most common side effect is bone and muscle ache.
So why go back there? If you'd rather be home, ask your doctor about Neulasta Onpro.
$75 million of us suffer from the gritty and frustrating symptoms of dry eye. We need TheraTears. TheraTears is more than just eye drops. It's eye therapy. Dry eye symptoms are caused by a salt imbalance. TheraTears' unique electrolyte formula quickly restores the natural balance. So your eyes will thank you. More than eye drops, dry eye therapy. TheraTears.
Guess what I just got? Hello, Dad. That's a big phone. Oh, my phone.
You built the flame that warms my heart, but your lying and cheating has torn us apart. And I'm moving on.
Paying less for my Medicare? I'm open to that.
Lower premiums? Extra benefits?
It's open enrollment.
Time to open the laptop.
And compare Medicare health plans.
Why? Because plans change. So can your health needs.
So be open-minded. Look at everything, like prescription drug plans.
Oh, and Medicare Advantage plans from private insurers. Use the tools at Medicare.gov.
Or call 1-800-MEDICARE.
Open to something better. Start today.
Booking a flight at the last minute doesn't have to be expensive. Just go to Priceline. It's the best place to book a flight a few days before my trip and still save up to 40%. Just tap and go. For the best savings on flights, go to Priceline.
Tired of wrestling with seemingly impossible cleaning tasks? Using wipes in the kitchen can be ineffective. Try Mr. Clean Magic Eraser. Simply add water to remove burnt-on food and grease. Try Mr. Clean Magic Eraser.
Who says being cheap is a good thing? We do. Cheapaware.com. There's nothing wrong with being cheap, with having fun, with saving money. So go ahead. Be smart. Be cool. Be cheap. Just download, click, or call and save on the best flights, hotels, cars, and more.
Cheapaware.com.
Go ahead. Be cheap.
We're going to get there. It's just a matter of how we get there.
The Senate Republican tax bill hitting a snag in the 11th hour. Bob Corker withholding his vote.
Our focus as an administration has been to focus on middle-class tax cuts.
Middle-income families are going to get hurt.
The president repeatedly urged several senior Senate Republicans to end the Russia investigation.
Secretary of State Rex Tillerson appears to be on his way out.
When the president loses confidence in someone, they will no longer serve in the capacity that they're in.
It was a verdict we were not hoping for.
The jury has acquitted Jose Inez Garcia Zarate of murder.
Where was the sanctuary for Kate Steinle?
From day one, this case was used to catapult a presidency.
This is New Day with Chris Cuomo and Allison Camerata.
Welcome to our viewers in the United States and around the world. This is your New Day. Allison is off. Erica Hill once again doing yeoman's work, this time on a Friday. Great to have you, and I need you. There's a lot of news. The Senate Republicans' tax bill has hit a major snag, $1 trillion snag. Republicans are now forced to make changes to their plan to win over deficit hawks who just can't accept adding that kind of number to the debt. So what is clear to a number of Republicans now is that this plan's not going to pay for itself, and it's not going to reduce the deficit. These were those big promises from the Trump administration.
The president's frustration with senators may, of course, be about more than just taxes. The New York Times reporting the president urged several Republican senators, including the head of the Senate Intelligence Committee, to end the Russia investigation this summer. And with all of this going on, the president this morning is tweeting about the acquittal of an undocumented immigrant who killed Kate Steinle. We have all of this covered. Let's begin with CNN's Suzanne Malveaux, who's live now on Capitol Hill with our top story. Suzanne?
Good morning, Erica. Well, President Trump also tweeting about the tax battle. This really is a make or break moment for the president and his party trying to desperately get a legislative win here. The problem is that $1 trillion and the question about how to pay for all of this. Senate Republicans continue to jockey over what gets in, what's taken out, and whether or not they can get the votes.
We're on the cusp of a great victory for the country.
The battle over the Senate Republican tax bill hitting a snag in the 11th hour. Retiring Senator Bob Corker withholding his vote Thursday after a new report by the Joint Committee on Taxation estimates the bill would increase the deficit by $1 trillion over 10 years and would not produce enough revenue to offset the cost of the plan. Corker demanding a trigger to automatically raise taxes if the bill fails to generate as much economic growth as promised. But the Senate rulekeeper declaring such a proposal would not be allowed as written. A showdown unfolding on the Senate floor as a group of Republican senators huddled around holdouts Corker, Jeff Flake, and Ron Johnson.
I submitted a very simple amendment that simply said Send the bill back to the Finance Committee and have them report back a deficit-neutral bill, a bill that doesn't blow a hole in the deficit. To call this a circus would be an insult to circuses.
Republicans now scrambling to appease deficit hawks. Senator Lindsey Graham acknowledging Corker's concerns are real, but adding failure's not an option, as Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell can only afford to lose 2 Republican votes. This as Senator Elizabeth Warren demanding to see the Treasury Department's economic analysis after Steve Mnuchin promised the American people this.
We think there'll be $2 trillion of growth, so we think this tax plan will cut down the deficits by $1 trillion. That's a large number.
The Treasury's Inspector General launching a probe after receiving this letter from Warren, questioning whether Mnuchin misled the public or refuses to release the report because those analyses would contradict the Treasury Secretary's claims.
It's almost criminal. It's a lethal attack on the middle class.
Democrats continue to hammer the GOP tax plan, asserting the bill will hurt lower-income Americans while benefiting the wealthy. The Congressional Budget Office predicts those earning less than $30,000 will be worse off by 2019, and those making less than $75,000 worse off by 2027. Removing Obamacare's individual mandate would also result in 13 million fewer Americans having health coverage over the next decade.
Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says that they will resume voting at 11 o'clock this morning. They're looking at some changes, potentially reinstating the alternative minimum tax for wealthy individuals and some corporations, also raising the corporate rate, the corporate tax rate above 20% after several years, far from certain whether or not these type of measures will actually satisfy some of those lawmakers. Chris?
Right, and the parliamentarian, as you brought up. You know, this is a specific game they're playing right now in the reconciliation rules. To keep a simple majority, they have to respect those rules. Suzanne, thank you very much. Have a great weekend, my friend. Thanks. The New York Times reporting President Trump pressed top Senate Republicans to put a quick end to the Intelligence Committee's Russia investigation this summer. One Democratic senator calling the president's tactics inappropriate and a breach of separation of powers. But the White House insists the president has done nothing wrong, and they use a very specific phrase to explain it. We're going to discuss that now with CNN political analyst Jonathan Martin, a.k.a. J-Mart, one of the co-authors of the New York Times report. Good to have you, my brother. Thank you for being here.
Thanks,
that
Chris.
Phrase that the White House uses is undue influence, which makes every lawyer's eyebrows go up, because that's a term of art. It's a specific level of what would be seen as, you know, conduct of an executive. What does the reporting reveal about how forceful, to use Richard Burr's word, the president was on this issue?
This comes during the summer, and you have to look at the context of what was happening over the summer and why this president felt compelled to bring up the Russia investigation multiple times in conversations with senators of his own party. He was furious that Jeff Sessions had recused himself from the Russia investigation. He was stewing over the fact that he had to sign a major Russia sanctions bill at a time when he didn't have any other accomplishments and had to come down hard on Moscow. And then the health care bill fails. And all this time, there are more and more stories leaking out every day about the Russia investigation, the Mueller probe, questions about Jared Kushner's involvement, Don Jr.'s involvement. So this president over the summer is really in a lather about these issues and just the Russia cloud over his head. And so what happens, Chris, is he will call senators, and he works the phones quite a lot. He will call senators and start talking about a different topic. But invariably, our reporting turns up that in the course of the conversations with lawmakers, he would soon drift towards the topic of Russia. And he would start venting about why his allies on Capitol Hill weren't doing more to protect him, or in some cases, why they wouldn't drop this thing. And talking to the senators, you know, Senator Burr makes the point that it's not totally clear to this president how you act in office and how you, you know, approach the congressional branch of government. He doesn't understand necessarily that when you're the president and a different branch of government is investigating you, there are certain things that you do and don't do, because he is new to politics. Now, Democrats will say, well, you can't keep using that excuse, but I'm telling you, if you talk to members of Congress on the Hill, that's what they'll tell you. He doesn't understand how the rules work.
Well, what would be the alternative for them? To tell you that they believe the President of the United States is trying to strong-arm them into stopping a congressional election? I mean, they have to give them some space on it, but the net effect is what? What do you think it has meant to Republican senators who are investigating these very important questions?
Well, they know that eyes are on them, and the pair of eyes we're talking about are in the Oval Office, and that he follows this probe very closely, and he is hopeful. In fact, beyond hopeful, he is eager for this thing to come to an end with all due haste. And I think he would like for it to come to an end earlier this year. In fact, in reporting the story, I had one former White House aide say that at first the president did not mind the investigation because he thought it would wrap up quickly and exonerate him entirely of any connections, any improper connections last year during the campaign with Moscow. That clearly, in hindsight, was fanciful thinking. Here we are, the 1st of December. You've got multiple Hill investigations and the Mueller probe all still going on.
You know, we've been searching lately for a little bit of insight into what's driving the president's behavior, especially recently. And you have an interesting anecdote in the reporting about just how obsessive this need to explain to people where he is on the Russia investigation is. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so my colleague Maggie Haberman...
We'll put up an excerpt at the same time so they can read and listen. Multimedia.
There you go.
Mr. Trump often vented to his own aides and even declared his innocence to virtual strangers he came across on his New Jersey golf course. What?
Yeah. So, as you recall, Chris, for a good chunk of August, the president was on holiday at his golf course in New Jersey. And, you know, as this president is wont to do at his various resorts, he is glad to come up and, you know, pat a back, shake a hand of visitors, even show up at a wedding for a few pictures. He kind of enjoys that back and forth with people who are at his clubs. And our reporting, thanks to Maggie Haberman, suggests that he would meet people on the golf course, in the clubhouse, that he, you know, was just meeting for the first time. They were at his club, and he would quickly launch into the fact that this Russia investigation, you know, isn't on the level, and I'm going to be clear, there's nothing to this. And people were sort of struck by the fact that he was having these kind of conversations. Again, talking
Es wird wieder Sommer, die Sonne sorgt dafür, dass es läuft bei dir. Du bist mit der Clique unterwegs und schöne Mädchen gibt's häufig hier. Wieder mal heiß, wieder mal Schweiß und wieder mal läuft's bei dir. Ein paar schöne Mädchen haben sich wieder bei dir und den Boys verirrt. Sie sind auf euch fixiert, die eine hat sich für dich neu frisiert. Sie kennt ein paar Leute, weiß wo getanzt wird, denn sie ist häufig hier. Irgendwo steigt ne Party und du kennst einige Leute hier. Du lernst jemanden kennen, ihr fangt an zu tanzen und kurz danach läuft's bei dir. Ist alles easy, denn es läuft, wenn wir es wollen. An diesem Tag, in diesem Jahr wird es so laufen, wie es soll. Und dieses Mal beginnt der beste Tag, genau wie letztes Mal. Läuft bei dir.
Professor Alan Dershowitz, you know, Richard Nixon was impeached by that, or the House Judiciary Committee voted to impeach him because he obstructed justice with the FBI, even though the FBI works for him. Just because an agency works for you, you are not excused from obstructing justice. In fact, you are more likely to obstruct justice because you have the power to fire James Comey, which is of course what he did. And one of the subjects of Mueller's investigation is whether the firing of Mueller was a legitimate exercise of his presidential power. It's different with the House and Senate because they are a different branch of government. He has less leverage over them, but he doesn't have no leverage over them. You know, there's a lot of interaction between the White House and the legislative branches. So the fact that he is pressing these people to end their investigation is potentially evidence of obstruction of justice. It's not necessarily obstruction on itself, but as part of a full picture, it is certainly relevant to his intent.
And there's also the argument that we've heard, and then that you were just talking about with Jonathan, of, listen, this is a guy who is not a career politician, and this is what a lot of people wanted. He does things differently, even in terms of these interactions that he's having with different lawmakers. The question there being, and David, I'll throw this one to you, is how long does that last? How long can this administration say, you know what, we don't do things your way because we're not cut from your cloth, and that's why you wanted us?
No, I think all that's absurd. The president doesn't care. By the way, there's a lot of grown-ups, at least some grown-ups, who are around him, who would tell him, Mr. President, I know you're upset about this. Don't pick up the phone. He doesn't care. He's going to do what he wants. He operates in a space where he says, look, wherever I am is where I want the storm to be, and I will be in the center of the storm. I have no shame. I don't care how bad, you know, the pushback is. I am going to argue my case. I'm going to push around whoever I need to push around. I will fire the FBI director because I don't like how he's doing the investigation. And I will, and so in the consequence of that, he has brought so much of this on himself. Legally, in terms of the media scrutiny, in terms of congressional scrutiny. If not for his paranoia and obsessiveness, there may not even be a special counsel. So the reality is, this is not about political naivete. This is about a disregard for anyone else's opinion other than his about how he's going to move forward. He is, you know, his paranoia is about people thinking, oh, maybe I'm not legitimate if Russia tried to influence the election. No, they didn't influence the election. They didn't influence the outcome, but they tried to. They could ultimately have an effect later on. Congress has a responsibility to try to get to the bottom of that. The president doesn't care about that.
All right, so let's pivot to something that makes all of this go away. If he can achieve his legislative agenda, if he can deliver for the American people, whatever political marks are on him because of what happens with Russia, as long as there's no legal exposure, he'll probably wind up being fine. That takes us to the tax bill. David, where does it stand? The president came strong out of the box saying that this is about the middle class and this is about paying down the deficit with growth over time. Where do they stand on those promises?
Well, on that latter point, it's just speculation, you know, and now you have Congress's own scorekeeper on this saying, no, it's actually going to bust the budget and increase the deficit. And you've got the dynamic of Republicans, including those who are not up for re-election, who are not going to be swayed by political pressure by Republican leadership or by the White House, saying, no, that's not going to work for me. So either they're going to have to dial back some of these tax cuts for corporations, or maybe return the alternative minimum tax, or they're going to have to find some other way to bring these, kind of deficit hawks on board. It's not clear to me what happens today, but I do believe, from the White House point of view, from the Republican leadership point of view, they've got to get there. Failure is not an option here.
But remember also, this bill, it's pretty unusual to have a tax cut bill that is unpopular with the public.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I mean, this is a bill where the benefits go enormously to the more wealthy people in this country. And it may lead to, you know, higher medical costs, cuts in other programs. You know, yes, it is important politically, probably, for the Republicans to pass this bill. But, you know, be careful what you ask for. If middle-class people start to see their taxes go up as a result of this, that's not much of an accomplishment.
Right, but you get a benefit in the short term. I would also argue that when we're in the middle of, you wake up every day, what do you see? Oh, the stock market's going gangbusters. And yeah, you can make the argument, oh, you're just going to make corporations fatter, wealthier. But there's a lot of people who have their pensions, who have their retirement accounts in the stock market as well, who are going to be happy to see those headlines every day. There's a lot of political return on that. And then these middle class cuts become increases farther down the road. And that is, as you say, I mean, that's the price that's going to have to be paid that could turn a lot of voters off.
Gentlemen, appreciate it. Have a good weekend.
Thanks.
President Trump is outraged and tweeting this morning after an undocumented immigrant is found not guilty in the 2015 shooting death of Kate Steinle. Trump slamming the verdict as a travesty of justice. CNN's Dan Simon live at San Francisco's Pier 14, where Steinle was killed. It is very difficult to separate the politics from the case itself. But this verdict should not be taken as a complete surprise.
That's exactly right, Chris. First of all, the president has already tweeted 3 times about the verdict, twice just this morning. The first one using it as a justification to build the border wall. The second one, he's upset that the defendant's criminal past was not allowed to be brought up during the trial. Meantime, we are on the edge of Pier 14. As you said, this is where Kate Steinle was gunned down. It led to some very fiery rhetoric that is only now going to escalate now that you have this acquittal.
My opponent wants cities. But where was the sanctuary for Kate Steinle?
The case became a flashpoint during the presidential campaign and led to a heated national debate over sanctuary cities. At the center, Jose Inés Garcia Zarate, an undocumented immigrant, deported 5 times to Mexico, 7 felonies on his record. But none of that would come into play inside the courtroom. The only question, was Kate Steinle the victim of an intentional shooting, or was it an accident? The jury finding it was the latter, acquitting the 45-year-old of both murder and involuntary manslaughter. His public defender addressing the Steinle family.
I hope that they do not interpret this verdict as diminishing in any way the awful tragedy that occurred and that their family has suffered.
And he also addressed critics, including President Trump, who tweeted that it was a disgraceful verdict. No wonder the people of our country are so angry with illegal immigration.
For those who might criticize this verdict, the Attorney General of the United States, the President and Vice President of the United States, let me just remind them that they are themselves under investigation by a special prosecutor in Washington, D.C., and they may themselves soon avail themselves of the presumption of innocence and the beyond a reasonable doubt standard. And so I would ask them to reflect on that before they comment or disparage the result in this case.
July 1st, 2015. Kate Steinle had been taking an evening stroll along San Francisco's Pier 14 with her father when the bullet seemingly came out of nowhere. The defendant ditched the gun and fled the scene, but the case was not clear-cut. The bullet ricocheted before hitting Steinle, raising questions as to whether Garcia Zarate was ever intending to fire the gun. There was also no motive established, and Garcia Zarate had no history of violent convictions. Kate Steinle's brother expressing his disappointment. "I'm not surprised," he said in a statement. "The system failed Kate from the start of this chain of events. Why would the verdict be any different? It is failure after failure." The shooting happened 3 months after Garcia Zarate was freed by the sheriff's office, let go after prosecutors declined to press forward on a decades-old marijuana charge. But instead of handing him over for deportation, the San Francisco jail let him walk free. A recipe for a political storm. Defense lawyers decrying the politics the verdict will bring.
From day one, this case was used as a means to foment hate. It was used to catapult a presidency along that philosophy of hate of others. And I believe today is a vindication for the rights of immigrants.
Well, Garcia Zarate could spend additional time in California prison for being convicted on a lesser charge, being a felon in possession of a firearm, but because of time already served, it's likely it will be just a few months. So ultimately, it will be back to Mexico for Garcia Zarate. Federal immigration authorities have already said they plan to deport him for a 6th time. Erica?
And Simon, live for us there. Thank you. Major corporations stand to get big tax cuts if the GOP tax plan passes. So will average Americans see any of that cash come to them? We've been told it could happen. We're taking a closer look next.
We asked our customers, why is Consumer Cellular your choice in wireless?
Consumer Cellular helps me save money. It's simple and easy.
It is reliable.
I like the fact that there are no contracts.
By moving to Consumer Cellular, my cost is 50% less than it was.
They fit the plan to you.
I have everything I want with Consumer Cellular.
Their customer service is fabulous.
Customers are the #1 priority.
I really feel like they take care of me. We're proud to have received the J.D. Power Award for highest customer service 3 times in a row.
We really appreciate the AARP discount.
AARP members get exclusive discounts.
It's easy to switch. You could use your own phone and you could use your own number.
Wild horses wouldn't drag me away from Consumer Cellular. Go with Consumer Cellular.
You're going to save a lot of money.
Now, for a limited time, get a $20 credit on any new line of service. Call 1-800-325-6461. Go online or visit a Target store today.
I'd do anything to catch your daughter's killer. I don't think those billboards is very fair.
Rolling Stone raves. 3 Billboards is a darkly comic bonfire of a movie.
The police is too busy eating Krispy Kremes to solve actual crime.
What's the matter with you, saying that stuff on TV?
4 stars.
Go, girl.
Frances McDormand is a combustible force of nature.
This time, the chick ain't losing.
In a renegade masterpiece.
Don't!
That will get you good. 3 Billboards. Rated R.
Your insurance company won't replace the full value of your totaled new car. The guy says, you picked the wrong insurance plan. No, I picked the wrong insurance company.
With Liberty Mutual new car replacement, you won't have to worry about replacing your car because you'll get the full value back, including depreciation. Switch and you could save $782 on home and auto insurance. Call 1-844-592-2089 for a free quote today. Liberty stands with you. Liberty Mutual Insurance.
The only thing that stands between you and great sleep is a simple box. The revolutionary Casper mattress perfectly balances soft and firm for outrageous comfort. It's the internet's favorite mattress. Order online. You can try it for 100 nights in your own home. And if you don't like it, we'll pick it up and refund you everything. Try it today, risk-free, at Casper.com.
Take a stand, make a stand for what's right. It's always worth the fight.
Vote now for the CNN Hero of the Year at CNNHeroes.com and Facebook Messenger.
Hydro moisture or microhydration? Oh, hey, for my hair, should I go pomade or gel?
The blue one.
Oh, is this good for razor burn?
Those guys don't know what you need. I do, and I'll bring it right to your house.
Is that my wife?
Hi, honey.
Hi, honey.
Get a DSC starter set for just $5. Join Dollar Shave Club today.
You won't see these folks at the post office. They have businesses to run. They have passions to pursue. How do they avoid trips to the post office? Stamps.com. Mail letters. Ship packages. All the services of the post office right on your computer. Get a 4-week trial plus $100 in extras, including postage and a digital scale. Go to stamps.com/try and never go to the post office again.
This is CNN, the most trusted name in news.
President Trump has repeatedly said slashing the corporate tax rate will create jobs and increase pay for the middle class. Major CEOs now admitting, though, that is not necessarily what they plan to do with the money they will save. CNN's Christina Alesci here to explain. Okay, so what will they do?
Well, it's interesting, Erica. The main premise here is that the corporate tax savings will somehow flow down to the little guy. And that argument is an oversimplification. If you look at corporate taxes and corporate profits since 2012, when they hit a record high as a percentage of GDP of overall economy, those profits have held pretty steady. So that means companies have the money to hire and invest in research and plants and equipment, but they've chosen to do other things with it. Listen.
Just in time for the holidays, Republicans seem poised to deliver a gift to U.S. businesses.
It reduces the corporate rate from 35% all the way down to 20%, and it provides a
less tax. It'll free up cash to hire employees and expand operations.
Those are jobs. That's money we want to bring back. We're going to create expensing that incentivize company to spend capital here and create jobs.
But how much will the average American really benefit from corporate tax cuts? Will it really trickle down? Even executives aren't promising much. The Wall Street Journal asked a group of them if they'd pump more money into their businesses in front of Trump's very own economic advisor.
If the tax reform bill goes through, do you plan to increase your company's investment, capital investment? Just a show of hands, if the tax reform goes through? Okay.
Why aren't the other hands up?
A tepid response, considering companies are also getting extra sweeteners, including a reduced rate on trillions parked overseas if they bring that money back home. But CEOs of major companies admit that workers won't necessarily see more jobs or higher wages, at least not right away.
What about jobs and wages? Does that argument work? Is that an area you would focus on and you would invest in?
I think principally, it's not a short-term change. It's not like there's a big box of money out there that suddenly comes back and gets reinvested by us in 2018.
In fact, studies show the last time there was a similar holiday on foreign profits in 2004, about 60 to 90 cents of every dollar went to stockholders, not investment. Bottom line, the tax break was not an effective way to grow the economy, according to the Congressional Research Service. And experts don't think it'll be different this time around.
How much of that $3 trillion is likely to come back to be used to hire folks, invest in research and development, build new plant facilities and manufacturing? I would suspect it's fairly low.
But the fervor for big corporate tax cuts is helping fuel a so-called Santa Claus rally in the stock market. And you know that's making President Trump very happy.
Look, the major question here is, do we really need corporate tax cuts right now? Third quarter economic growth came in at about 3.3%. That's pretty good. The argument against these corporate tax cuts is, why don't we wait until we really need a boost to economic growth, hold it in our back pocket, and then cut corporate taxes when it's really needed, potentially in a downturn? Chris?
Christina Alessi, thank you very much. Joining us now, two CNN political commentators of top variety, former Republican Senator Rick Santorum and former Democratic Congressman Steve Israel. I saw a sour face come across your pretty visage, my friend, when you were listening to Christina Alessi.
Thank you.
What bothers you about the analysis?
Okay, a couple of things. First off, you have trillions of dollars sitting overseas. Everybody knows that. And so what is the complaint? Well, if you bring it back, if that money comes overseas, parked over there in banks, if you bring it back, not all of it is going to be spent on creating jobs and investment. Okay, true. I don't think anybody doubts that. But if it stays over there, none of it is going to be invested in jobs and investment. So the idea that we're bringing $3 trillion back, that's a good thing. If it's distributed to stockholders, that helps pension funds, it helps retirees, it helps a lot of people. So the idea that this is a bad policy because money sitting overseas not doing a thing for Americans is being brought back, isn't going to go all to workers, is a ridiculous criticism.
But that's not your problem. Your problem is that it adds to the deficit in a way that is unacceptable to many Republican brothers and sisters.
That particular provision doesn't.
No, I know. I'm saying that's your problem.
Yeah.
They're not fighting right now about repatriating money. Right.
Okay.
They're fighting about the fact, on one side, that this is going to blow up their deficit. They can't take that back home. It's not going to help the middle class. They can't take that back home. That's the problem.
Yeah. Well, there's a fundamental difference, as we all know, and the joint tax, the folks who just did the score on this provisions. There's a fundamental difference in what tax cuts are going to do, and I think Republicans, and if you look historically, a lot of economists will say that these kinds of tax cuts do stimulate growth beyond what these modeling groups say they are going to. And I think the vast majority of Republicans, a handful say no, like Bob Corker and James Lankford and others, but most Republicans believe that these reductions in business taxes, reductions in taxes across the board, are going to stimulate more economic growth than what these agencies are saying, and they're willing to take the risk of doing so. There are a handful that are not, and they have to be worked with.
Steve?
Look, what really stimulates economic growth is when you bolster the middle class. That's just historic, and this bill does not bolster the middle class. It skews to the very richest. You know, it's funny. In Washington, 2 + 2 usually equals whatever you want it to. But there's one group of umpires. It's the Joint Committee on Taxation. For them, 2 + 2 has to equal 4. They're not partisan. They stick with the numbers. And their objective analysis is, as you've been reporting, that this tax bill creates a $1 trillion deficit. So we're borrowing from our children in order to give tax cuts to those shareholders and those corporate titans now. It's going to stimulate economic growth to the score of about less than 1%. And that's why they've stumbled at the finish line. That's why they had to delay the vote last night. Here's what's going to happen. They're going to go back to the drawing board. They're going to try and ameliorate Senator Flake's concern, Senator Corker's concern, bring down that debt. But every time that you subtract or add in trying to pass a bill, you're potentially losing votes either in the Senate or back in the House of Representatives. So this thing ain't done yet.
A lot of political pressure has been put on by the administration in terms of what they promised and the proof they said they would provide. The Treasury Secretary, usually not a big player in these types of tax discussions, he is a big player, and here's what he said.
Not only will this tax plan pay for itself, but it will pay down debt.
He said he would prove it and that he was going to come out with a report. And now there's no report, and it doesn't seem that the premise is going to be satisfied.
Yeah, look, I can't speak to that. All I can say is that historically, the joint tax and congressional budget office, all these scorekeepers in Washington, D.C., have been wrong. And they've been wrong by huge amounts, by that reducing taxes, having people keep more of the money, having businesses. I mean, the criticism of the business tax cuts, the corporate tax cuts, to me is another one I rolled my eyes at. And the reason is we are losing jobs. The Democrats for years have said we're losing all these jobs overseas. Businesses are moving out of this country. One of the big reasons is because we have the highest corporate rate in the country. Even Barack Obama was for cutting the corporate rate, and now all of a sudden cutting the corporate rate is helping the
nominal rate is very high. The practical rate, what they actually pay, puts you right about in the middle of the pack.
The code.
It's true. Look, you can certainly do better. But is this the way? Go ahead, Steve. Respond.
You don't have to believe the Joint Committee on Taxation. You don't have to believe the talking points, but we should believe history. I was a Democrat in the House of Representatives who voted for the tax cuts in 2001, 2003. I was with a minority in my party. The fact of the matter is that between 2001 and 2008, those tax cuts actually drove up our debts, drove up our deficits. We ended up going to war in Iraq and Afghanistan on tax cuts. Didn't have the supplies and the equipment that our troops needed because we couldn't afford them. And then we had this massive meltdown in 2008. So there is something to be said for the reality of history and what it teaches us when we do tax cuts that...
See them gala wine. Me I rate them fine. God, me just nice. The words is sublime. 10 out of 10, perfect score. Wind up a body like a tornado. Twist up a waist, can I take it slow? Your body good, your body good, your body good, your 10 out of 10. Wind up a body, girl, I brace it and then every man a rose, so you wanna be your friend. You are 110. What's I know your body good, your body good, your body good, your 10 out of 10. Rock it up, fine girl, your 10 out of 10. No girl a high out, so better than them. Jiggle, jiggle, you like I know you should catch. And the bill skin not getting nothing but set on your map. Baby, set, ready, one.
Body good, wine like that. Face for me body and catch right back. You know me ready, long time me steady. Give me the thing right back.
Them a send me a professional, they send me a the best. In the service, them a go talk to see me face.
Give me the thing right back, me forget about the race. From that spine, you want it in a me race.
Your body good, your body good, your body good, your 10 out of 10. One tap a body, girl, a brace it and then every man a rose, so you wanna for your friend. You a whole 10.
What you know, your body good, your body good, your body good, your 10 out of 10. Rock it and wine, girl, your 10 out of 10. No girl a high out, so better than them. Jiggle, jiggle, you not lazy, 10 out of 10.
Wiggle, wiggle, one for me.
Rock it and wine, come gimme, gimme.
From a long time, they know Caliban's the king.
Girl, me man a girl is tough, girl, I know me run the ring.
You ever clean, so 5-star me rate ya.
You know when no silicone and natural me date ya.
Chit-chat no deal that, cause you never style that.
We got big no friend, first class, girl, me rate ya.
Your body good, your body good, your body good, your 10 out of 10. One tap a body, girl, a brace it and then every man a rose, so you wanna for your friend. You a whole 10.
What you know, your body good, your body good, your body good, your 10 out of 10. Rock it and wine, girl, your 10 out of 10. No girl a high out, so better than them. Jiggle, jiggle, you not lazy, 10 out of 10.
Wine for me, wine for me. Come give me, come give me. Wine for me, wine for me. Come give me, come give me.
10 out of 10.
Wine for me, wine for me.
10 out of 10.
Come give me, come give me.
10 out of 10.
Wine for me, wine for me.
10 out of 10.
Come give me, come give me. Your body good, your body good, your body good, your 10 out of 10. One tap a body, girl, a brace it and then every man a rose, so you wanna for your friend. You a whole 10.
What you know, your body good, your body good, your body good, your 10 out of 10. Rock it and wine, girl, your 10 out of 10. No girl a high out, so better than them. Jiggle, jiggle, you not lazy, 10 out of 10.
Your body good, your body good, your body good, your 10 out of 10. One tap a body, girl, a brace it and then every man a rose, so you wanna for your friend. You a whole 10.
What you know, your body good, your body good, your body good, your 10 out of 10. Rock it and wine, girl, your 10 out of 10. No girl a high out, so better than them. Jiggle, jiggle, you not lazy, 10 out of 10.
rasilimali, wanyama pori nzuri sana. Kenya inapendeza, talanta tu. Try to destroy it and from your me deserve an apology.
Mandela, make me focus ahead and make me work forever, Kenya.
Daddy, sura yangu yogopa machozi. Nipende, nikupende mie, nitunze, nikutunze mie. And I'm reading this song for you. Can you put my homeland so high? Corruption, no fight no more. Peace, give me peace. I love my homeland.
First class music. Yeah, you know this.
Tell them sorry kwa kuunda
me a be them bad, bad me a be them bad, me a be them bad, me a be them bad, bad me a be them bad, me a be them bad, be them bad, bad me a badder than them, me a be them bad, be them bad, bad me a badder than them.
Yo, mic check, hey, hip hop, swag check, bravo, the thing shot it down. Can you hear the sound? Hip hop, number 90, hey, Watch on the shake your mic next blood car bomb. Bravo Nico fit now a smoke candom. Watch on the split dry militura bomb. Nani me kuoni kifanya hisa now for long. So watch your split zao Nico ride now. Wakileta juki tutaleta madarao. Wakileta maudofu nika na mambao. Wachina now. So mina jua wako zao. So pa ukwa pakawa. Huenda ikawa. Kapuka imezidi na mimi ndiye dawa. Ma MCs ni wengi kwa hii game kama chawa. Pia nina kamro juu kama soja. Siezi give up butter. Ukinichocha usilike chapa. Kama umesota yo. Hip hop phenomenal. Hini hip hop phenomenal. A little freestyle man. Phenomenal. This a hip hop thing phenomenal. Hey, watch on the shake your mic next blood gun. Hey, check. Hip hop freestyle. Skiza bus. Alright. Eti mimi msanii ndo naweza be, lakini na kipawa ya kuroga kwa bidii. Tangu nianze hii fani ya muziki mimi napata wadhi hawanielewi juu mimi ni mdogo kama Grammy awali, lakini mimi mchawi. Awali nilikuwa nikiroga kwenye swing bogo wana bring, lakini mimi niko study kama zawadi sipati, lakini bora mentali hatari. Maisha ni mali na process scoring wala cha bring. Mimi mtoto wanda tena sing Kenya naona na script adana niweka kwenye clip chini. Hip hop phenomenal. Hip hop phenomenal. Dancehall thing, freestyle thing. You don't know the thing set man, bruv. Out. Hip hop. Hey Russian. A long time I chant a real song for the girl them, you know. Yo, me a ton, come over here so make we tell them something for the girl them, you know. Bravo again. I need J, me a ton again. Yeah, man, for the sexy body girl them there. Hey, me a ton, drop the one on your again. And what we say? Cock it up higher, cock it up higher, cock it up higher, cock it up higher. We post another bigger tune again. Bravo and me a turn another tune again. The one on him, cock it up higher, cock it up higher, cock it up higher, cock it up higher. We post another bigger tune again. Bravo and me a turn another tune again. We ever fresh and clean from me ear to me toe. When we step in at the floor, the girl them one more. Not for them a ball fi we forget us not pose. We run the whole place in them give you with the most. Body up in the air, shake your bumper. Why not all hours feeling like an anaconda? Heavyweight my girl, your body in a bed. Confidential, body to body all night, confusion. So jiggle up your body like a three-line. Illuminati them a call me no give no feedback, girl. Take off your clothes now, straight for me, girl. Body in the air now, do it for me, girl. Come on. Cock it up higher, cock it up higher, cock it up higher, cock it up higher. We post another bigger tune again. Bravo and me a turn another tune again. The one on him, cock it up higher, cock it up higher, cock it up higher, cock it up higher. We post another bigger tune again. Bravo and me a turn another tune again. Hotter than fire, girl, you pull me like ice and tough like stone, so in a soft like rice. And girl, them smell nice from them head to them thighs, and the way them walk, the way them talk, them everything nice. So come in all me room and make me ride you like a bike on the bed floor. Cup and what you have to realize. From your head to your toe, me have to pan you like fries and try, so me can deny you like Jesus Christ. So cock it up, cock it up, cock it up higher, cock it up, cock it up, cock it up higher. We both another bigger tune again. Bravo and me a turn another tune again. Yeah man, they want to know run things, you know. It's not wrong way. Hey, a bravo again for the sexy body girl them have to know so that. Yeah man, it's an ID37 music, you know what I mean? I will take you over. Another bigger tune for the sexy body girl them. Bravo, and me out.